But let's sing together, okay, everyone? We can harmonize our bodies, use all that energy to sing our song.
The words are in the chat, and I just put it like the first line of each verse, and you pretty much know the song. So woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind just stayed on justice. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Now I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on justice. I'm walking and talking with my mind just stayed on justice. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on justice. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Now I woke up this morning with my mind just stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind, stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Wow, thank you. Welcome, everyone. It is so uplifting to see everybody in these little squares. It just makes my heart sing. So I want to welcome everyone to Tuesdays with Tillis, week number 193. We are a community of nonviolent resistance, underline community, underline resistance. And it's so funny because yesterday I saw a lot of you at for the first time since March, but it didn't seem like I hadn't seen you because, you know, you've been in these little squares and it really feels like we're together. That's kind of a miracle to me when we're in our little squares together. Welcome, especially everyone who's here for the first time. Eloise Harris, welcome, here for the first time. Anybody else here for the first time? Wave to us. Okay. Oh, this is great. So if you're just joining us, we had hoped to have Cal Cunningham be here, and that was all confirmed until everything fell apart yesterday. I guess things fell apart a few days before that, but he canceled yesterday. So we are now establishing a really interesting and rich relationship with his staff, I would say. And we're still hoping that he'll get elected. And what we had done, Michael and I were kind of figuring out how to handle this visit because it wasn't very long, is we had asked Amy and Cliff to represent us and talk to Cal about policies that were important to us. So we are going to do that because we all need to really be clear about that. And I don't know about you, but I've been spending a lot of time in the last couple of days talking to people about why they absolutely have to vote for him. And a lot of that has to do with his policies versus Tillis's policies. So we're going to do that. And then also the topic for today is follow the money, because there are so many things right now about money. And so Blakely and Randa are both going to talk to us about some various aspects of that. And there are other aspects of that that I know we've all been reading about. And I think the more we learn about all that, the better. So Amy and Cliff, is it okay if we start with you?
All right, I've unmuted myself. I hope you can all hear me. Good morning, everybody. This is Cliff in Durham. And Karen and Mike had identified us to use 10 to 15 minutes of time that Cal Cunningham had apportioned to our group during his prospective visit to highlight some of the things that we felt he needed to pay attention to in the event that he got elected or gets elected. And we had divided those up, and I had about 4, and Amy had about 4 different things. And so we'll just run through those pretty briefly, and just to let you know where we were in our thoughts. You know, it seems as though even though Cal Cunningham is currently ahead in the polls, that it is in his interest and our collective interest as well to protect the integrity of the voting process for this election and for future elections. There's a very nice article, I'll put it in the chat later on, in today's Washington Post by Katrina Vanden Heuvel of The Nation, where she's addressing not just the issue of turning out our voters, but the very important matter of voter intimidation. And it seems like that has been in the works for some time, but as recently as last week during the presidential debate, it was signaled by our president that his supporters should feel free to just roll up to the polls and do whatever they have to do to make sure that, from his perspective, bad things don't happen like they happen in Philadelphia and elsewhere. So we wanted to make sure that Cal Cunningham was speaking out against voter intimidation tactics at the polls, both by these unrecognized people and even by the recognized people. You know, that it is possible for individuals to be, nominated and put forth by the Democratic and Republican parties to be official poll watchers or poll monitors or whatever the terminology is in a particular state. But even with that, there is a concern that those individuals may really be functioning primarily just to hold up the line, to challenge every vote that they can, to delay the process, to leave people frustrated in line, and to encourage them essentially to turn around and go home. We can't have that. And we need him to speak out about that, as well as asking our state and local law enforcement people to safeguard the polls, and also to make sure that in the event that he becomes our next senator from North Carolina, that he and other Democrats support the restoration of the Voting Rights Act. The other thing that we talked about was making sure that he was a representative for all the people of North Carolina. Unfortunately, we've had to labor under the weight of having a senator who was not representing our interests and all the people here in North Carolina. So we wanted to make sure that he understood that he has to be open to constructive input from his constituents, have regular town hall meetings, and otherwise just respond to our communication. And he needs to know that when we deem it appropriate, we're going to challenge him to move in a more progressive, people-oriented direction, and that we will support him when he does that. The third thing that we identified was just the idea of strengthening our democracy. And within that context, we talked about the importance of enhancing the legitimacy of the Supreme Court by considering expanding the court and enacting term limits on all federal judges. Also consider term limits on members of Congress, eliminating the filibuster, and reforming the Electoral College to more proportionally reflect the will of the voters. We also wanted to emphasize a policy position that we've addressed many times in this group, which is the matter of the climate crisis. We wanted to make sure that he supported policies that slow the warming of the planet, and to emphasize that the climate crisis also has profound national security and financial implications for this country. There's more that we had to say about that as put forward by the climate subcommittee of this group. And I will not go through all of that at this moment, but those were the first half of things that we were going to deal with. And then Amy had some other things that she was going to mention.
Next one up is health care. First statement is we believe that health care is a human right. We need to strengthen protections and support steps to broaden the accessibility of the ACA with the eventuality of transitioning to a single-payer Medicare for all plan. Beyond that, police and criminal justice reform. We need Cal to support the Justice and Policing Act passed by the House of Representatives in June. It is primarily concerned with policies and issues regarding policing practices, accountability, and citizens' rights, as per the Constitution. We do not agree with defunding the police, but instead would desire there to be a reimagining of the police department as we know it. Police departments should have licensed professional social workers and psychologists who at the determination of a trained 911 operator can be called on to respond with the officers. Police officers should be required to wear and activate their body cameras to run from beginning to the end of their shifts. As far as criminal justice reform, white-collar crimes need to have as much emphasis placed on them as any other crime. Sentencing guidelines must be revised such that low-level crimes aren't treated as capital offenses. Next up is fixing our broken immigration system. First thing I want to say about that is seeking asylum is still legal, as far as I know. Support bipartisan efforts to write comprehensive immigration reform to include a clear path to citizenship. Support strong border security achieved by electronic surveillance that can be achieved without separating families or caging anyone, especially children. And eighth, the final, income inequality, economic opportunity for all. Institute a $15 per hour minimum wage. Institute a tuition-free community college education for low-income high school graduates statewide. Institute a system of low-interest loans for first-time buyers, minorities, and low-income individuals, such that they too can live the dream. Strengthen the trust fund for Social Security and Medicare to close the shortfall that is predicted to occur after 2030. Put protections in place such that a rogue president or a far right-leaning court system won't be able to upend at the stroke of a pen. Support Medicaid expansion for North Carolina. This is just a few of the things that we came up with. Obviously, it's a long laundry list that we need to get done, but this is a start. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just would point out too that I think there might be a link, at least in the tiny letter, that goes to Cal Cunningham's website. Within that website, there's a tab called Priorities, where he lists about a dozen different policy positions that he's taken. And for the most part, I think that his policy positions reflect where we stand on virtually every one of these major issues. I'd encourage you to go check that out and recognize that given where we are, this is not about Cal Cunningham or Tom Tillis per se. It's about us and the policies that we want to see promoted. And so let's not get caught up in personalities, and let's just keep focused on the issues.
Yeah, great. Oh, that's so great. Thank you, Amy and Cliff. They have both done a lot of work on this, and it's going to be more and more important going forward. I think we're all getting that. I don't know about you, but I kind of thought we could do this until the election, but now I see we're in for the long haul. Until I die, I'm going to be doing this. And when Cal is our senator, we really need to know about these policies. So let's take some questions or comments.
Hey, Karen, I just want to say that was. It's Cal's loss that he did not hear what Amy and Cliff had to say. And maybe before the election, he will be able to give us that 10 to 15 minutes. But I want to thank Amy and Cliff. You guys did a fantastic job, and I think that we were well represented. I videoed this, and I would like to know if I have permission to send it to his campaign website. Is that okay?
That's a great idea.
Is that okay? Then I will do it. And I also wanted to know if I can post this on our Facebook page and saying that unfortunately Cal couldn't come today, but this is the topic we were going to discuss with him. Is that okay?
I think that's great. Did you video the part where we all talked about how mad we were?
No.
That's probably good.
Should we do it again? And everybody that showed up that doesn't, is not here every day. I really, and I'm sure everybody else does, we appreciate the great attendance. And I was happy to see Nancy and Craig here. It brought back fond memories, and I hope they're still stay around for the whole day. And Dewey, I saw Dewey earlier too. So thanks everybody and the new people that came the last couple of weeks. We hope you stay as regulars, and hopefully we don't have another 100 and whatever amount of years at Tillis to do this again.
Yeah, really.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, Juliet, go ahead.
I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I'm going to be a poll observer. And we haven't, because this latest thing of Trump's was he just said this week, we haven't been instructed on how to handle any outright resistance from Republican disturbers. And so I'm taking the training again because I need 2 trainings. But I hope that there's going to be a question and answers session afterwards so that, we can find out what we're supposed to do.
At the training, you mean? For that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. When we're poll observing, yes. I'm scheduled to do it, I think 5 or 6 times. So,
do you know if you're going to be inside or outside?
I'm going to be outside.
Okay. And you have a phone number or somebody that you're supposed to contact?
Yeah, there's a boiler room of lawyers.
Right.
And we each have their numbers.
Okay.
And Juliet, you're doing this with Democracy NC, is that true? Or some other group?
Wake County Democrats.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Democracy NC, Karen, Democracy NC has made it clear that if you see armed people at the polling place where you're a vote protector, you call 911. The cops should know that they're there. And then if you see them harassing a voter, you call the hotline as well as calling 911. But we do not engage with the militant resistance or the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, Jan. Jan, I'm so sorry. Do not engage with the military. I was trying to mute the phone, but I muted you.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Democracy NC's advice is we do not try to interact with, we should not interact with armed resistance or militia or, but we should call the police 911 if they are, when they show up, when they're there, we should let the police know they're there. And we should also call the hotline at any time that we see them interacting with voters in a way that the voters seem intimidated or in any way bothered. So that's the advice that Democracy NC is giving, and their training is really good, Juliet. So you might want to take their training as well as what the Democrats are giving you.
Good idea. Thank you.
I took the training with Democracy NC last week. It was an excellent training. And they also said do not video because that can incite retaliation. That was new to me.
Yes, Mary Grace, go ahead.
So we should video if there's a problem happening. I mean, this is the way people are protecting themselves, especially people of color. So maybe it's a privilege for some of us not to videotape some things, but I don't think there should be a blanket don't videotape. There really are. I mean, this is the only reason a lot of police are being held accountable and a lot of militia are being held accountable. So I think maybe we have to make careful judgments, but I don't think there should be a blanket don't video statement.
I'm just repeating what we were told in the training session.
Is it more don't post it on social media? I mean, I feel like videotaping is kind of important. I mean, posting it is one thing. If they don't actually see it, then they can't retaliate against it. So I don't know. It just seems to me to keep a record of anything bad happening is.
Let's hear from Diane and then Jeff.
Yeah. If there's a crime that's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, if there's a crime that you see taking place, by all means, not only videotape it, but dial 911. Also, the Democratic Party, Juliet, find out if your particular chairperson at the Democratic Party has the hotline for the lawyers that are supposed to be at every poll. When the DOJ was down here, I know they were here in Union County, but hey, everybody needs to be down here. When the DOJ was here, they left that intact, that if you thought that you would have problems and you needed help, that the Legal Defense League and a couple of other attorneys who were volunteering, I know we have 3 in this county who will volunteer to be on call if should there be a problem. We had the last election, there was a noose that was tied to the tree. And the judge, I went and told the judge, and she was very upset with me for taking a picture. However, that picture helped the attorneys make their case. And so if you see a crime, certainly videotape it. I mean, you're not just calling out that there's a flood or a fire.
Okay, we got a lot of people who want to talk right now. We got Diane Robertson and Dewey, Andy, and Jeff.
Thank you.
I just dropped the hotline number in the phone in the chat. Everyone should put that in their phone, and that is the hotline to the Democratic Party boiler room. There are several efforts going on. There is a partisan hotline and voter protection program that Juliet is involved in. I guess I'm involved in that one as well. And I am on the board of Democracy NC. If Democracy NC says you're not to video and you're wearing one of their yellow shirts that says you're a vote protector, then you should not video and you should call 911. We have not gotten all the training yet on the vote protection for the Democratic Party, and it may well be that they will be asking people to videotape, and they may not be the same people that are doing the vote protection. I agree, if a crime's being committed, you need documentation, but at the same time, you don't want to become part of the problem by doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. So citizens can do whatever they want, and if you have that hotline number, You can use it. You can call 911 and you can be available. I agree, Diane. Union County seems to have a whole lot of problems because I get lots of calls on the hotline from people in Union County. So maybe Union County, outside of these vote protector programs, wants to have other people that are there getting that documentation and also have the hotline number that as private citizens, they can send it in. But let's not get involved in other people's training and how they're supposed to react and behave because we don't want to be part of the problem.
Okay, good. And Dewey, welcome, Dewey. We missed you.
Thank you, Carrie. Glad to be here. Let me quickly read 2 paragraphs along what we're just talking about is guns. And I called the State Board of Elections 2 weeks ago, and they referred me to an attorney first name Kelly. And I've called her back twice. But here's what I found very quickly. The North Carolina firearms laws, written by, as it turns out, then Roy Cooper, Attorney General, make a statement at one place, number 7, even with a permit, carry a handgun in the following areas. There are 10 and 4 of them apply to us. I'll read those 4. Any law enforcement or correction facility. Now we're meeting in the sheriff's auxiliary building. Another one, any space occupied by state or federal employees. That's election board. Areas of assemblies, parades, funeral registration. This clearly is an assembly. And then the 5th one was state occupied property. 2 of our 4 sites are state occupied sites or property. All right, I'll tell you the other paragraph I want to read to you is from the North Carolina Supreme Court. By common law, North Carolina, it is unlawful for a person to arm him or herself with any unusual or dangerous weapon or of terrifying others and go around highways or wherever there. So that a firearm is intimidating. And then these are, so I've petitioned or called the state to get a policy. Like that.
Karen, you muted.
We lost him.
Yeah. Dewey, your internet is going out. Would it be possible for you to email that to me and I'll put a link to the tiny letter? Because the end, you kind of faded out and we need this information.
Okay, I'll get you. And I'm going to be meeting with them today. And if they don't have masks on, they did the other day, they've called the state office about that. But if they don't have masks on, I'm walking out as a Democratic observer and I'm going to make a statement about that at a minimum. I'll do that, Karen.
That's great. Wait, Dewey, remind us what county you are in. What county are you in?
Franklin County.
Franklin County. Okay, thank you so much for being with us today, Dewey. I know you're working really hard for this election. Andy, I think, was trying to talk, and so was Jeff and Lib. Andy, you want to?
I don't know if you guys saw what I posted on Facebook earlier this morning from the state of Richmond, that some of their ballot boxes have been broken into around Richmond and Henrico County and stuff like that. And I know we don't really have ballot boxes per se, but and they don't know who it is who did the breaking in and if there were even any ballots in any of those boxes at the time. But it's just another piece of this big puzzle that we're in the middle of right now. So I just wanted to put that. If you guys want to look on the Facebook page, I put the letter from the state of Virginia. I think it was either the Department of Elections or the Attorney General's office. I can't remember which one.
Thank you, Andy, and congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
And Ted, Red T Raccoon, got a new job this week too. So just congratulations on new jobs. Jeff?
I don't want to complicate things anymore, but I saw this morning a fairly comprehensive report that came out of Georgetown that looked at militias and laws in each state about militias and what should do, shouldn't do. So I posted on the chat the one for North Carolina. But again, in some ways it agrees with what's been said before, in some ways disagrees with some of the other things. So just for more information.
Thank you. And this is a good time to remind people that Jewel does this beautiful labor of love of sending the chat out every week. And if she doesn't have your email, if you didn't get a reminder for today, she doesn't have your email, and you would like the chat, please put your email address in the chat for her. It is really wonderful to see Nancy and Cliff. Nancy Jacobs, our co-founder. Welcome back, both of you. So good to see both of you. Lib, you wanted to say something? Where are you?
Yes, I was in Chatham County yesterday at the Board of Elections, and they do have a ballot box where people who are returning their absentee ballots. So I asked the person what she would do. What has she been instructed to do if somebody showed up with weapons? Because that has been part of the question. And she stammered a bit and said, well, she supposed she would call the police.
Okay.
So
Michael,
that verifies what's been said already in some respects, but for Chatham County at least, that's what has been taught.
Okay, Michael, last word on this subject.
This is not on the subject, and I said it earlier, but I wanted to repeat what I said about the young Latino man that I saw this morning on TV. I don't know if anybody else besides me watched Joe Biden's town hall last night in Miami with Lester Holt. And this morning they interviewed a undecided Latino who asked the question to Joe Biden, and they asked him if he's undecided, asked him if he had made up his mind. He said he had not. And he said, based on Trump's age and Biden's age, he would not make up his mind until he heard tomorrow night's debate between Pence and Kamala Harris, because he feels that one of them is going to be the next president. I found that very, very interesting and a very insightful comment from a young person.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. So y'all, we're going to move on from this subject, but it really seems to me like we want to return to it next week because it's very rich and important. And I think most of us are being poll monitors for this election. And those of us who haven't signed up yet might want to. And if y'all have ideas about how to sign up for these various poll monitor trainings that haven't already been put in the chat, it would be great to do that so that everyone who hasn't signed up can do that. Just before we move on to follow the money, I wanted to mention that 37 of us did nonviolent resistance training with Ready the Ground about how to be marshals if we do end up having to hit the streets after the election. It's looking kind of positive that we'll have a nice blue wave, but just in case. So we met with the trainers who were just so lovely, and they have scheduled another training for Sunday, October 25th from 2 to 4 p.m. And in that training, we're going to be inviting people from other organizations besides Tuesdays with Tillis. And everyone who took that training can take it again, but I know some people missed it and might want to take it. Also, the George Lakey trainings, there are links to it in the tiny letter. And we are starting to talk with other indivisible groups and other resistance groups about how to mobilize in case we need to after the election. So we've got a lot of things to do at the same time. But there were so many stories about money, Russian money, pharmaceutical money, money for judges, that I just thought we got to talk about money this week. And both Blakely and Randa stepped up to talk about some aspect of money. And so I want to turn it over first to Blakely and then to Randa.
Hi. I don't know what you're going to talk about, Randa, but I'm going to start with just like kind of recent things that have been said in the last, since the beginning of October. So as soon as the articles came out about the tax returns, of course, Hillary, Rodney Clinton, and everybody was, making the circuits. And, Hillary was the one that told us or intimated about this arrangement that Donald Trump had with the United States government for 30 years to not pay taxes at the debate, right? So I wrote down one of the things that she said, I think it was on Thursday night on MSNBC, which said, it appears pretty clear to me that Russian money was funneled through Deutsche Bank. Russian money was used as guarantees for continuing lending to Trump and his organization. And that would be around like 2013. That was when he started he moved from the commercial side of the bank. So we hear a lot of like conspiracy stuff about the Kennedys, the son that worked at Deutsche Bank. He was on the commercial side and he left the bank before what we're talking about now. So his relationship banker for Deutsche Bank is somebody named Rosemary Vrablic, and she is in New York. And no one's ever called her in for questioning. So, at the back of my mind, when I start thinking about all of this, it's like there are people within our government who have been complicit in whatever's going on with him from the very beginning, because there are people who know why he didn't have to pay taxes for 30 years. There are people who know that he has been compromised and is a national security risk for the last 4 decades. And they have allowed him to run for president 3 times, and he is the president now, sadly. But anyway, yesterday, an article came out. Hold on. There's so much. There's a book by David Enrich, who has done a lot of reporting for The Nation about his money. He wrote a book called Dark Tower. So if you're really interested in it, that's a really good book to read. I have not read that one yet, but I do read his reporting. So he talks a lot about Rosemary Vrablic and also about Kushner as well. But there was an article that came out yesterday, and I'm trying to find it because I have like pages and pages of notes. But in 2013, there is a very small bank in Russia that transferred, I want to say it was $330 billion to Deutsche Bank. At the same time that Trump was being lent money by them, this recent money that we see on his tax returns that's coming due in the next 4 years, right? So, I mean, obviously, like, that's a big red flag. And kind of just confirms what Hillary Clinton is saying and what we kind of all suspect. The only other thing I would say is that
you got muted for some reason.
Okay, I'm back. I mean, you could just go on and on about this forever. What I find just really interesting about all of it is that, I mean, I'm not an FBI agent or in the CIA or whatever, but I mean, it's just 101 that you follow the money. That's really the only way that you get people. And why that hasn't been done is incredibly curious and very disturbing. And to me, it indicates that there are people within our government who are either being threatened or who are and have been complicit in trying to destroy our country. And that's really upsetting. And I don't know that, it's not, I mean, I think there's a conglomerate of disaster capitalists that are both international and also within our own country. And I think that could be a very good reason why we haven't addressed COVID here in this country, because people are profiting from it. Mm-hmm. And that's my spiel.
Oh, that is so excellent, Blakely. Thank you so much. Thank you. And for those of you who don't know, Blakely lives on the coast. What county do you live in?
I live in Brunswick County.
Okay.
I live down in Southport.
And she's been organizing a wall of moms for North Carolina. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you could be with us and so appreciative.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm a banker too. So I'm really like, I definitely get into all the banking stuff.
Thank you so much. Okay. I'm going to go on to Randa, who's talking about another aspect of money.
Okay. And this actually isn't hidden. This is one of those deals. It's right out there. This was in today's Times. So I kind of did a little prepared report, and then, okay. So the good news is that obviously the other side is worried, the Tillis side. But oh, do they have money? And that money smells like a dead skunk on the right side of the road. I couldn't help it. This is yet another invasion of the Postal Service's supposed autonomy that is bringing $7 million to the Tillis campaign over this month. The super PAC American Crossroads has already spent $13.8 million attacking Cal Cunningham. American Crossroads is led in part by Robert M. Duncan, who 45 installed as chair of the Postal Service Board of Governors. Mr. Duncan helped found American Crossroads with other top Republicans, including Karl Rove. Now, I actually thought Karl Rove was dead. And because I was going to make a sort of a kind comment, bless his heart, he's not dead. Yeah, so that's that piece of news. So the super PAC is run by Stephen J. Law, who is a former aide to, wait for it, McConnell, Senator Mitch McConnell. Now, Mr. Duncan is also a director of the Senate Leadership Fund, a super PAC linked to Mr. McConnell that has raised about $129 million. Mr. Duncan personally recommended Louis DeJoy for the job of postmaster. And as we know, he forced his employees to give money to the Tillis campaign, as well as he himself gave 1.2 mil to it. Mr. Duncan swears he has absolutely no partisan bias, but he did appear in an RNC video holding up 4 fingers and smiling as fellow Kentuckians chanted 4 more years. So this is the kind of money that they are bringing into North Carolina to get Tillis elected. They've also given money for Susan Collins, as well as, let's see, I think McSally, perhaps. But Tillis, most of it's Tillis. They really say linchpin, linchpin, linchpin. This is it. All right, so that's just my report of the astonishing, sudden, here's the money, like bang, just like we talked about with the food program earlier this week. Elena discovered this whole thing about suddenly there's food for people for the month of October who've been hungry, but there hasn't been previously. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. And what we also discovered on Monday on our Zoom call, Elena discovered it, is that the food that they finally found for a couple weeks for hungry families in North Carolina comes in a box with a letter from Trump. So thank you so much, Randa and Blakely. I want to just add 2 more things, and then I'm going to open it up for about 5 minutes, which is that these 2 drugs that Trump took, he owned stock very recently in these 2 companies, and the CEO of the company that makes the most expensive drug, the cheap one is $3,000 a dose. The most expensive one, the CEO is a member of his golf club, and he's worth $2.5 billion. He recently got a grant of $450 million from the government. And it just really backs up what Blakely's saying, is that some people are finding COVID very profitable. And just one more thing, which is that we all know that the real issue with the Supreme Court is not Roe v. Wade or even the ACA. The real issue is that if this seat happens, it will just lock up the control of the Supreme Court by big business and billionaires. And so, of course, millions and millions of dollars are being poured into this Supreme Court vote. Okay, so I'm going to open it up again. I think we have a little time for discussion about money and these great presentations. Thank you both. Yeah, Darlene.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on what Blakely was talking about. Andrew Weissman, who was one of the Mueller people, DOJ attorneys. In fact, I think he was leading the fraud investigation with regard to the Russian influence, has come out, you all may have heard this, has come out and somewhat very gently criticized Mueller for not looking at the money. And he's a Mueller, I mean, he's worked with Mueller for many, many years, and he has a great deal of respect for him, but he doesn't understand why Mueller did not go after the money.
He's a Republican.
Yeah, Blakely, go ahead.
Well, I just think, yes, he just came out with a book, and he's been on the circuit too, and just sort of confirmed what we all said. I mean, I am an acolyte of Sarah Kendzior, who does the Gaslit Nation podcast and also wrote Hiding in Plain Sight, which I highly recommend to read to understand a lot of this. She's been right about everything since before the election in 2016. And called hysterical and all those things, but everything that she's saying has come true. But basically, she studied, Russian autocracies, and she saw it coming because she had seen it happening in the satellite Soviet countries. But what she points out is that in 2011, Mueller gave a speech about all of this Russian dark money and all the bad stuff that was going on, and that it was really the challenge of our time. And so something happened after he gave that speech and when, the investigation happened. And she was saying all along, Mueller is not our savior. And she points out that more than any other time in our history, we have been protesting during this 4 years, even more than in the civil rights movement. And that a lot of things that have been happening are to calm us down, give us hope that things are going to get better. And she feels like the Mueller investigation was just kind of a placeholder, that they weren't really ever going to do anything. And I just find that interesting. So take that as you will. But it's sort of backed up now by what Wiseman is saying, is all I wanted to say, is that he's sort of confirming that they really just never pulled that thread at all.
They never did. That's right. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, it is my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a big reason why they didn't go after the money in the Mueller investigation is that they were constrained by Rod Rosenstein.
Yes.
And not given permission to really look at that as a counterintelligence matter.
Yes. And nobody ever investigated that Trump is a Russian agent. That's crazy.
Well, it looks like to me from the people that I follow on MSNBC that seem to know a lot about his money, the guy from DC Reports, and I never can remember his name, but anyway, he says it's all money laundering. He's been laundering Russian oligarchs for decades.
Well, the Doral golf course is definitely a money laundering operation, and that's pretty much confirmed by looking at the tax returns. It's a huge money loser. And so the reason that would be is that basically every 50 cents on the dollar is going back into some oligarch's pocketbook or Putin's or whatever via. So that's one to look at, is his Doral golf course if you're, interested in getting geeky on it.
Thank you. And I want to highlight Tara's comment in the chat. While I agree that the biggest foundational concern with the cemented ultra-conservative majority in SCOTUS is it becomes a kangaroo court for unfettered capitalism, I do believe we should not abandon the talking points of being a threat to the ACA or Roe legal abortion. These messages do resonate with people fairly quickly and easily. Yes, thank you, Tara, for that. And also still to keep pointing out that Tillis has voted against the ACA 13 times so far.
Karen.
Bessie is next.
To whoever's point it was about whether or not Trump was a Russian agent. Last night on Rachel Maddow's show, she had John Brennan on, and he said during his first interview briefing with Trump, he noticed that it seemed that Trump was more interested in trying to determine how much U.S. intelligence knew about Russia's involvement than he was anything else. So that just, maybe he has been a Russian. My thinking was maybe he's been a Russian agent all along, and now he's in place for them.
My thinking too, because he was also trying to find out how they knew the information. Yeah, thank you, Bessie, for that. Sandy.
I was going to say, thank you, Bessie, because this morning Brennan was on Morning Joe, MSNBC. And what was also chilling to him was when he talked to the top congressionals, the reaction of McConnell. He wasn't interested. He didn't want to know anything more because Brennan was telling him they're heavily involved. McConnell wasn't at all interested. The other thing I want to do is recommend, if you can, stream the film, the 2-part film on Comey. It's excellent. And you see, my takeaway is Comey and Mueller are people of integrity, but they got tied up by people that have no integrity. So that was kind of their downfall. They were kind of trapped. And when you watch that film on Comey, you understand better why he did what he did to open up the investigation on Hillary again. So I recommend it.
Thank you. Yeah, Blakely.
I just want to say that I am skeptical of that statement. That movie, which I did watch, is based on a book that he wrote about himself. And this is part of his redemption tour. So I would just say that I don't necessarily think there are any white hats that were involved in any of this. And I definitely don't think he was one. And I don't think Mueller is one. And that's just my opinion. So
okay.
It's a great movie, but it is based on his autobiography, not someone else's. So FYI.
Okay.
Okay, good. Ellen.
I was going to say the same thing and recommend that movie, but I found it frightening. It was frightening. That's all I'll say. But I do recommend it, though.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, it's all pretty frightening. It's all pretty frightening. I just want to comment about the quality of this discussion and how great it is to be with people who have been studying this and looking at it full in the face. Dewey. Oh, you're muted, honey.
You got it now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. While we're on this deep hollow stuff, I find it and I know y'all were careful about who's on this call, but I find it very interesting when I start reading the laws of guns, back noise zooms me out.
Yeah. And I don't think we can be too careful. Yeah, that's really great. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. And is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet who would like to make a comment? Emily, go ahead. Oh, we can't hear you, honey. You're not muted from this end. You could put it in the chat, okay? Because we can't hear you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken? Who wants to say something? Okay, Darlene, back to you.
I was just reading this on Twitter. Watch for Chris Wray today. Chris Wray has come out and made a statement. The right to vote in a free and fair election is one of the foundations of our American democracy. The leaders of the FBI, NSA, and a couple of other intelligence groups want you to know how their organizations work together to protect your voice, no matter how you cast your vote. Hashtag protect 2020. So it looks like Chris Wray may get fired very soon.
All right, that's good news. And that's Darlene, because I want to have good news before we close.
Something is interrupt your, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I'm moving around. I'm jiggling the table. So I don't know about you, but I've been very encouraged by how absolutely everyone I know from all over the country is working so hard to get out the vote. I think as long as we keep working as hard as we have been to get out the vote and to organize people, we're going to be doing pretty well. Mary Grace, I didn't notice that your hand was up.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to say, yes, a lot of this stuff is very frightening, but that can't decide our way to be and our actions and stuff. We just really have to analyze, assess, evaluate, and then really find that inner space where we can find our own peace and build that beloved community that we know is possible. We just don't work from the fear.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I really gather strength from noticing how desperate these guys are these days. They're desperate, and they know that they're losing. They're losing popular sentiment. I saw this morning that 74% of Americans now think that the Senate should be passing COVID relief and not voting on a Supreme Court justice. The Poor People's Campaign and many other organizations have been working really hard to pressure McConnell and pressure GOP senators. And we need to really keep that up, no matter how tired we are of calling our senator's office and writing letters to the editor, just in every way we possibly can. Let's keep that up. And also yesterday, I really didn't talk about yesterday, but Tuesdays with Tillis partnered with the Poor People's Campaign to do a caravan. A lot of you were there. It was a lot of fun. And I think it gave a real uplift to us. It was kind of fun to go back to the federal building. I saw one of the federal cops and ask him if he missed us. It was CJ, and I don't think he particularly misses us, but, but I realized that I kind of miss being there. And so I think we'll probably be doing caravans again. We're going to be thinking about creative ways to continue to change the world so it more reflects the beloved community that we all have been really creating here and that we really know is possible. I want to thank Cliff and Amy and Blakely and Randa and everyone. And I think that we should do the closing so that Scarlett can do the closing words.
All right. Week 193.
Karen,
first?
Karen, you got to give me screen share.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to sing first. Okay, sorry. Okay, I got to give Randa screen share so we can do the. I'm sorry. I think that I'm getting really good at this, and then I'm not. But it's good. It keeps us humble to continue to make mistakes every day, right? You should have it now, Randa.
Okay, so Michael, as always, came through with some lyrics to brighten our day, or not, or make our day as real as it is. So take it over.
Yeah, thank you, Randa. One final point I wanted to make about Cal Cunningham. I'm disgusted and I'm disappointed and all that, but if you're having trouble voting for Cal Cunningham because of this indiscretion of texting, apparently, and whatever else they're going to throw at him, think about how they equate that with John Edwards and equate that with what Donald Trump has done. And it shouldn't be. It should be a no-brainer. It should be no problem voting for him, really.
Don't worry. We're all going to vote for him.
That's right. We got to tell other folks to, too. Well, if you don't like who's in there, vote them out. That's what election day is all about. Let's vote some new ones in. It's called the ballot box. If you don't like who's in there, vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout. We'll bring some good ones in. We'll find us hope again. Because we can't take no more. Let's vote them out. Take it, Randa.
Randa, you're muted. Oh, okay.
I know, she keeps muting me. An election never mattered quite like this. Oh, COVID running wild is what it is. Tillis, Trump contagious, won't quarantine, outrageous. They spread their deadly virus conscienceless. Oh, vote 'em out, vote 'em out. And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout. We'll bring some new ones in, they'll find us hope again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out.
November 3rd will show who's got real clout. We'll resist Trump's throwing things in doubt. We're counting every vote. Send Trump his eviction note. He'll have to go when we say vote him out. And now we know Trump hid the COVID facts. For that alone, he sure deserves the axe. We'll stop this crazy cult, elect a sane adult, and fight like hell to take the Senate back. Vote him out. Vote him out. When we're gone, sing and dance and shout out. Shout out. We'll vote some good ones in and bring to vote out.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Always wonder how choppy it is.
Our 193rd week, and they said it wouldn't last. I must admit that sometimes when we were standing in the freezing rain or sweating buckets, or as we Southern girls say, glistening buckets of sweat, I had my doubts. To close out this gathering, as we sit comfortably in our homes or outside in our yard, I want us to focus on the word grace. And without being too religious, I know that you all are a sacrament to this movement to save our country. A sacrament is defined as an outward sign of inward grace. Think about that. We know that that's something that Donald Trump certainly doesn't have. An outward sign of inward grace. Let that settle into your heart and soul for a moment. An outward sign of inward grace. I live in a 55 plus community with a diverse population where all races, religions, occupations, and in fact, some of my Creekside neighbors are here on Zoom. So, hey folks, there's been a conversation going on in our neighborhood about displaying political signs and having conversations. And some have said, oh, we need to keep the peace and not show any of those political stands. Don't ruffle these old feathers within our quiet community. Others have said that they're not smart enough or well-informed enough to defend their position. And one neighbor recently said that she's disappointed and hurt by the actions of someone that she has voted for. She says she doesn't know how to respond when challenged. Others have said that they are tired and just don't have the strength anymore. They are just plain old worn out. And as you know, I can't stand by silently. You all have been wonderful teachers. You are the best role models. And you, Tuesdays with Tillis, make me smarter. and you lift me up when I'm just plain old worn out. You are my outward sign of inward grace. So we display our signs. We join car caravans and we honk our horns as we go around the federal building. We engage in calm, intelligent, well-informed conversations. And we prompt conversations in our neighborhood and outside our neighborhood, at the post office, at the doctor's office, at Walmart, the vet's office, Harris Teeter, and at the gas station. Those are our signs of grace and belief in this imperfect system. I have seen your grace in action in letters to the editor, how you research all our topics, food donations, work with the Poor People's Campaign, and your presence here, your faithful presence here. I know that you have that grace for us and others, and I am such a fortunate woman. And as Winnie the Pooh said to Piglet, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is, even when we're apart physically, I'm always with you via Zoom, text, email, and WhatsApp. So everyone unmute yourself. Forward together.
One step
back. Forward together.
Not one step
back. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Together. Thank you, Scarlett.
Thank you.
You're awesome. Thank you, Scarlett.
Stay strong.
Scarlett.
Be weak when you need to be.
Here's
See you
Scarlett.
next week.